The coming of Beowulf. So the living sorrow of Healfdene's son simmered bitter and fresh, and no wisdom or strength could break it. That agony hung on king and people alike, harsh and unending, violent and cruel and evil. In his far-off home, Beowulf, Hygelac's follower and the strongest of the Geats, greater and stronger than anyone anywhere in this world, heard how Grendel filled nights with horror, and quickly commanded a boat fitted out, proclaiming that he'd go to that famous king, would sail across the sea to Hrothgar now when help was needed. None of the wise ones regretted his going, much as he was loved by the Geats. The omens were good, and they urged the adventure on. So Beowulf chose the mightiest men he could find, the bravest and best of the Geats, 14 in all, and led them down to their boat. He knew the sea, would point the prow straight to that distant Danish shore. Then they sailed, set their ship out on the waves under the cliffs. Ready for what came, they wound through the currents, the seas beating at the sand, and were borne in the lap of their shining ship, lined with gleaming armor, going safely in that oak-hard boat to where their hearts took them. The wind hurried them over the waves, the ship foamed through the sea like a bird until, in the time they had known it would take, standing in the round-curled prow, they could see sparkling hills high and green jutting up over the shore, and rejoicing in those rock-steep cliffs, they quietly ended their voyage. Jumping to the ground, the Geats pushed their boat to the sand and tied it in place, mail-shirts and armor rattling as they swiftly moored their ship. And then they gave thanks to God for their easy crossing. High on a wall, a Danish watcher patrolling along the cliffs saw the travelers crossing to the shore, their shields raised and shining. He came riding down, Hrothgar's lieutenant, spurring his horse, needing to know why they'd landed these men in armor. Shaking his heavy spear in their faces, he spoke. "Whose soldiers are you, you who've been carried in your deep-keeled ship across the sea road to this country of mine? Listen, I've stood on these cliffs longer than you know, keeping our coast free of pirates, raiders sneaking ashore from their ships, seeking our lives and our gold. None have ever come more openly. And yet you've offered no password, no sign from my prince, no permission from my people for your landing here, nor have I ever seen, out of all the men on earth, one greater than has come with you. No commoner carries such weapons, unless his appearance and his beauty are both lies. You, tell me your name and your father's. No spies go further onto Danish soil than you've come already. Strangers, from wherever it was you sailed, tell it, and tell it quickly. The quicker the better, I say, for us all. Speak, say exactly who you are, and from where, and why." Their leader answered him, Beowulf, unlocking words from deep in his breast. "We are Geats, men who follow Hygelac. My father was a famous soldier, known far and wide as a leader of men. His name was Edgtho. His life lasted many winters. Wise men all over the earth surely remember him still. And we have come seeking your prince, Healfdene's son, protector of this people, only in friendship. Instruct us, watchman. Help us with your words. Our errand is a great one, our business with the glorious king of the Danes no secret. There's nothing dark or hidden in our coming. You know, if we've heard the truth and been told honestly, that your country is cursed with some strange, vicious creature that hunts only at night, and that no one has seen. It's said, watchman, that he has slaughtered your people, brought terror to the darkness. Perhaps Hrothgar can hunt here in my heart for some way to drive this devil out, if anything will ever end the evils afflicting your wise and famous lord. Here he can cool his burning sorrow, or else he may see his suffering go on forever, for as long as Herot towers high on your hills." The mounted officer answered him bluntly, the brave watchman. "A soldier should know the difference between words and deeds and keep that knowledge clear in his brain. I believe your words. I trust in your friendship. Go forward, weapons and armor and all, on into Denmark. I'll guide you myself, and my men will guard your ship. Keep it safe here on our shores, your fresh-tarred boat. Watch it well until that curving prow carries across the sea to Geatland, a chosen warrior who bravely does battle with the creature haunting our people, who survives that horror unhurt, and goes home bearing our love." Then they moved on. Their boat lay moored, tied tight to its anchor. Glittering at the top of their golden helmets, wild boar heads gleamed, shining decorations swinging as they marched, erect like guards, like sentinels, as though ready to fight. They marched, Beowulf and his men and their guide, until they could see the gables of Herot, covered with hammered gold and glowing in the sun, that most famous of all dwellings, towering majestic, its glittering roofs visible far across the land. Their guide reined in his horse, pointing to that hall built by Hrothgar for the best and bravest of his men. The path was plain. They could see their way. Beowulf and his men arrive at Herot and are about to be escorted in to see King Hrothgar. Beowulf arose with his men around him, ordering a few to remain with their weapons, leading the others quickly along under Herot's steep roof into Hrothgar's presence. Standing on that prince's own hearth, helmeted, the silvery metal of his mail shirt gleaming with a smith's high art, he greeted the Danes' great lord. "Hail, Hrothgar! Hygelac is my cousin and my king. The days of my youth have been filled with glory. Now Grendel's name has echoed in our land. Sailors have brought us stories of Herot, the best of all mead halls, deserted and useless when the moon hangs in skies the sun had lit, light and life fleeing together. My people have said, the wisest, most knowing and best of them, that my duty was to go to the Danes' great king. They have seen my strength for themselves, have watched me rise from the darkness of war, dripping with my enemy's blood. I drove 5 great giants into chains, chased all of that race from the earth. I swam in the blackness of night, hunting monsters out of the ocean and killing them one by one. Death was my errand, and the fate they had earned. Now Grendel and I are called together, and I've come. Grant me then, Lord and protector of this noble place, a single request. I have come so far, O shelterer of warriors, and your people's loved friend, that this one favor you should not refuse me, that I, alone, and with the help of my men, may purge all evil from this hall. I have heard, too, that the monster's scorn of men is so great that he needs no weapons and fears none. Nor will I. My lord Hygelac might think less of me if I let my sword go where my feet were afraid to, if I hid behind some broad linden shield. My hands alone shall fight for me, struggle for life against the monster. God must decide who will be given to death's cold grip. Grendel's plan, I think, will be what it has been before, to invade this hall and gorge his belly with our bodies. If he can. And I think, if my time will have come, there'll be nothing to mourn over, no corpse to prepare for its grave. Grendel will carry our bloody flesh to the moors, crunch on our bones, and smear torn scraps of our skin on the walls of his den. No, I expect no Danes will fret about sewing our shrouds, if he wins. And if death does take me, send the hammered mail of my armor to Hygelac, return the inheritance I had from Hrethel, and he from Wayland. Fate will unwind as it must.